Longitudinal arbitrage is a Balajism, or it's a term that that Balaji Srinivasan coined, and it kind of means that you could work from Nigeria for a Norwegian company, easily. It's like on the same time zone, or very similar time zones. So you could work from, let's say, from Kenya for a company based in the Middle East, or based in somewhere in Paris, And so this is like longitudinal arbitrage, meaning like, okay, you don't need to travel to Paris to work there, but it also means that you don't need to travel to a bigger town or bigger city, because you could work remotely. And for example, also like digital nomads, let's say they can come from Paris and work from Kenya, like.
Hello, welcome back to Mtambo's Desk, a weekly podcast covering deep conversations on technology, philosophy, complex science, and cryptocurrency. My name is Mtambo, and the following is a conversation with Jakub Simek, a co-founder of Wezesha DAO and an author of Wisdom Enterprising. In today's episode, I will be talking with Jakub Simek about his article, Longitudinal Arbitrage, under the Daily Balajisms series. And now, dear friends, here is Jakub Simek. Well, in what ways will fast satellite internet change the way we think about distance and proximity?
Yeah. So, okay, like imagine that we were in Kenya, like at some lodge, it was a Kiwanjani lodge, doesn't exist anymore, so we can disclose it. No, yeah, but imagine it was like 10 years ago, and there was hardly any signal, actually, mobile phone signal. Yeah, you would have to walk somewhere outside, and like just in the night it was a bit impractical because of the elephants or the lions and hyenas or something. But yeah, it was quite difficult to get a signal, back then. And maybe it still is, because it's like a remote place. But like with satellite internet, like Starlink, you could actually get a fast internet in the middle of nowhere, like meaning like in a really remote places, like that lodge that we used to stay for some time. Near Voi, in Tsavo National Park. So near Tsavo. Tsavo, yeah. So it was like at some ranch or some off Kasigal. So it was great times. But imagine like there was like no internet and almost no mobile phone signal, and now you could have like a fast internet. And you could like build an online business just out there, just like staying in such places. And you can actually like create new such places. You could create like the whole towns that are in the middle of nowhere on a relatively cheaper land. Yeah, because fast internet is here, and it's like kind of means that the future is here, but it's like and the saying goes like the future is here, but it's not evenly distributed. And with technologies like Starlink, the future is here, and it's much more evenly distributed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice. Well, and how will Starlink impact the real estate market and enable longitudinal arbitrage?
Yeah. So longitudinal arbitrage is a Balajism, or it's a term that that Balaji Srinivasan coined, and it kind of means that you could work from Nigeria for a Norwegian company, easily. It's like on the same time zone, or very similar time zones. So you could work from, let's say, from Kenya for a company based in the Middle East, or based in somewhere in Paris, And so this is like longitudinal arbitrage, meaning like, okay, you don't need to travel to Paris to work there, but it also means that you don't need to travel to a bigger town or bigger city, because you could work remotely. And for example, also like digital nomads, let's say they can come from Paris and work from Kenya, you know, like from some lodge in Tsavo nearby or something, because I don't know, maybe they find the quality of life in Kenya for many reasons better, because I don't know, it's less crowded. They're back to nature. You know, it's like, let's say they're close to Mombasa, something like that. So they can, for many reasons, they might actually end the real estate. It's definitely cheaper than in Paris or near Paris or something. So that's just like an example that longitudinal arbitrage is possible, but not, let's say, only between, let's say, Nairobi and Paris, but now it's like almost any like remote area that is covered by satellite internet. And so satellite internet, like Starlink, it's like a technological innovation. And we saw it also in the Ukrainian war, and after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. We saw that Elon Musk and his company Starlink, they provided, SpaceX, they provided this Starlink satellite internet connectivity within like 2 days after the company made the decision, so very fast, and they were also delivered there, and it kind of, the Ukrainians were very happy because otherwise it would be much more difficult for them to get their message out and communicate with the world and between themselves. And I heard, or I saw your tweet that the Starlink is coming to Kenya.
Yeah. It is breaking news to us, because at least also Kenya is I think at least Kenya will also improve in terms of speed internet, and also in terms of connectivity, even in the rural areas. You know, we have so many talented youths who have great ideas, but you know, these youths, some of them are in the rural areas and they cannot showcase their ideas. Mostly it's those youths who are in the urban areas who get that advantage to also showcase their ideas. So it's a great step towards our country. So we fingers crossed, because still we are waiting for approval from, regulatory approval from the government, so that they can give a go ahead for them to bring satellite in also in Kenya. But this is also another critical question, though maybe we can discuss maybe in another episode. But yeah, do you think also, does it pose also some risk in terms of, yes, it's a good thing, internet connectivity, but also in terms of control, like the West, like since like the American now, they can push their agenda through, say, the Starlink company, and you know, it's now the globe will be all connected with Starlink. Do you see some also some threats or some propaganda being pushed through that at some point later, maybe after they accomplish like covering the whole world with the satellite dishes? Anyway, that is
So the question, it's a good question. Like currently, like we have some like proof point or some example, like let's say from Ukraine, you know, the Elon Musk was asked to kind of like remove the Russian propaganda or the Russian side of the story from Starlink, but he refused to, because he said like people should have like two sides, to listen to two sides, you know, at least they can see how their enemy is like talking about them, or what kind of propaganda they are spreading, you know, the Russians from the Ukrainian point of view. So he refused to kind of like remove that those like media or something, like kind of censor them on that level. And it's like a broader question of like if the censorship kind of regime, or how much the censorship will move down the stack, you know. So we had the Twitter files you discussed with you had some guests, or also we discussed together, but you had also another like guest, at least one, talking about Twitter files, and we saw like how kind of it was more pervasive that we thought that like some government officials are kind of like just suggesting some kind of lists of people to be removed from Twitter, and sometimes there were like some just like small accounts with like, you know, like a few followers, and like I don't know, and the other times there was like some like important people, even like people of color, but like you know, or like of Indian origin or something like, or some some kind of South Asian or something origin, like this professor from Stanford, like who was kind of like had his opinions about lockdowns, I think was it, yeah, but then he was kind of like shadow banned by Twitter, and the argument could be made that it's like he had like an important piece of information, or he was an important voice because the lockdowns probably they were more severe than they had to be, and like so many people suffered all around the world. The supply chains got disrupted. Children developed like mental health issues. Their like performance at school and kind of dropped, you know, and so it's like it's not like either or, like if lockdowns were good or bad, but it's probably they were like too severe in some places, or not necessary that much after vaccination or something like that. And such voices were like muted or shadow banned, or like down ranked or something like that, just because they were like dissenting voices. And this was done on Twitter, and so like as you can learn in Twitter files, everyone can kind of follow it on. And actually, it's nice that they're being published on Twitter. You know, it's like kind of meta Twitter files published on Twitter, and it's nice. But I think it's quite a big deal, and it will be like. Now time moves so fast, and so many like new issues, and people might be just like okay, whatever. It's like some people say it's like a nothing burger or something, but I don't think so. I think it's quite important to find out like how this kind of like censorship decentralized. It wasn't even much like decentralized censorship, but actually some state agencies like were dictating Twitter who to shadow ban and who to remove and stuff like that. So that's quite bad. But you could also, like, I think this kind of censorship regime will move down the stack. I mean, into like these internet service providers, and so what would you need to do? It's like probably be on a VPN actually. So also like maybe that will be like more pervasive, like, so just like using VPN to I mean, this is the same thing in the EU. I think it will just, and the US will move into like more restrictive direction. Until it reaches some kind of breaking point, probably because of inflation, and like because of people will be just like fed up with it, like because they see that they don't get such a good quality of life as they were promised, and people are in many positions like are not as capable as they could be, and so I think we will see some kind of like decentralization. In this respect. But like, okay, I don't know if Starlink could, I think Starlink under Elon is like at least if you, when we saw this like example in Ukraine, at least he's like against censorship. Also with Twitter, he's like against censorship. But of course, like freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom of reach. And of course, also governments, they want to they also are concerned about security issues, you know, like fighting crime and like violent and this and that. So so I mean, it's like not even Elon is like a free speech absolutist or something, but like if you are not breaking the law, you should be free. You should be free to say whatever you want to say, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean the freedom of reach. Because, for example, if you use some kind of vulgar language or something, then maybe he doesn't want advertisers to be advertising along your tweet or something like that. So it's like, doesn't mean that everybody will have the same right to be to have the reach or to be promoted or something like that, or visible in the equal way. So, but the algorithms should be like as Alexander Bard in our discussion on your podcast said, like they should be like fair and transparent, like those algorithms. So you should know, like if you are being shadow banned and why, and so maybe you can correct your behavior, or you could, like, I don't know, you could move to another platform. So yeah, it should be like fair and balanced, meaning like it should be fair to many sides or both sides, not just, let's say, oppressing conservatives and being like having double standards towards liberals or something like that. So it should be like a more balanced and equal treatment of violations of these, like I don't know, these like Twitter rules or something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, how might the increased ability to work also remotely become the norm in the post-pandemic workplace?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like not Twitter, sorry, the Starlink was like the technical innovation. It's great that even very remote places can have fast internet. You can build your company just on very remote places, and the remote work was a cultural or moral innovation after COVID. Like, so it was like the moral premise kind of flipped, where if you didn't have a in-person meeting, you were more responsible, or you were more kind of, it was more polite to have a remote meeting during the lockdowns and during COVID, like, because you are kind of like, you don't want to spread the virus, you want to slow it down. So the moral premise flipped, at least for that time, and now people like Elon or many other people are not so actually so in favor of remote work, and they want to like bring back the old regime or the old kind of way of doing business. But I think there will be some kind of compromise or something. Probably there are many people who kind of misused like the remote work or yeah, like, I don't know, they spend a lot of time in garden or with their kids or something and working like maybe 1 hour a day. There were many people like that. But now with the recession and the quite bad economic outlook, but also like the economic performance of tech stocks and tech companies, many of these like kind of people got redundant or like were made redundant, got fired. So yeah, so now I think people will be more focused, and especially for some kind of jobs, I don't know, maybe software engineers or something, like working remotely, it's like perfectly fine, like for 100%, like 100% of their job. And but some other like compromises will be made, like, I don't know, at least once a week or twice a week you should come to office. But for this kind of 100% remote jobs, you could do the longitudinal arbitrage, because Balaji, it's kind of connected also with the personal runway. That it's another article, but it's like it's kind of much easier to cut your spending than to earn more money. It's kind of like, because like cutting your spending, it's kind of deterministic, and I don't know, finding establishing a new company and earning, let's say, twice as much. It's not deterministic, but there is a lot of chance. So it's like a stochastic. So like for Balaji advises many founders to just like, I don't know, maybe move out of expensive cities to a cheaper locales. And if they can work remotely, that's like a deterministic way how to cut your spending. Because let's say, I don't know, you were paying a certain amount for your, I don't know, for going out, eating out, paying for rent, and now if you move to a much cheaper place, it's like it's like a guaranteed that you are gonna pay cheaper rent, you know. So that's like so, and these differences can be huge between countries. Like let's say from like the Western Europe versus like Kenya could be like a really big difference, like, or big cities versus like some remote areas could be also a big difference. So it's like kind of like a deterministic way how to extend your personal runway. Yeah, it's to move to cheaper places. Yeah.
Okay, and what do you think the technological progress in the past impacted social progress and vice versa?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's like what was sooner? Was it like the egg or chicken problem? Yeah, I mean, technological progress and the social or moral progress kind of went hand in hand. So, for example, you had like Balaji also talks about it, like you had some kind of like progress in public sewage systems. So like some build out of public sewage systems, public, I don't know, water systems, water facilities. And then you had also some kind of like public health campaigns, or like saying something like cleanliness, it's next to godliness, you know. So it's like you kind of need both. You need technological progress, and you need also like social or moral or cultural progress as well. But our society and the Western society, it's quite over-indexed on this like moral or cultural progress, you know, like since the 1960s, you know, and actually it's kind of regressing on the technological front quite a lot. So you could see, like, I don't know, in the US that you had some power outages, you had fires, you have I mean, so even in kind of like rich countries, you can see that it's kind of becoming more frequent. Or now in Europe, you know, the Germans, they were against nuclear power for, I don't know, kind of mainly ideological reasons, or it was yeah, and it's kind of now they're dependent on Russian gas, and since the conflict in Ukraine, they like they burn coal, you know, they brought back the coal, you know. So it's kind of like unfortunate to see, you know, and they're kind of lecturing others, but they are now burning coal more than they used to before. So yeah, so if this, you need technological, sorry, progress, you need technological progress actually to kind of create these like win-win kind of scenarios, and like to grow the pie bigger for everyone. And then actually people can, it's much easier to be moral, you know, if and to be like to also pursue moral progress. So yeah, just like to summarize, I would say that both technological progress and moral or cultural progress are important, but and they feed on each other, or there is a synergy between them. But I think at least in the West, the technological progress got kind of was having a backseat for a very long time, and now we need to get it should become a top priority. Like, you know, China is building like 150 nuclear reactors in 15 years, and I don't know, us like getting back to coal and burning coal doesn't seem like a good alternative, or it's kind of embarrassing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Actually, Slovakia is quite good on nuclear, but like I'm just like criticizing Germans here mildly, So we have nuclear power plants, and we opened a new kind of section recently, and so we are quite okay. But it's like we have a common energy market, So like the Germans are quite, I mean, they're big. A big industry, and when they are having problems securing their own energy, it impacts us as well, because we are selling energy to them, and so then we have higher prices also for us. So yeah.
Right. As we wind up this conversation, in what ways does Starlink enable individuals and collectives to exit from obligate ties to the land?
Yeah, so that's also like a Balajism, or saying of Balaji Srinivasan, that technology, like after internet, kind of helps, digital technology helps us to cut our obligate ties to the land, like one by one. Imagine like you are on Facebook, but actually people, or on Twitter, but people, you don't know actually where your contacts are. So you can be in touch with your old friends, and probably they might be like in Kenya, or they might be like in Nairobi or in Mombasa, and sometimes you even don't know where they are. They might be somewhere abroad, totally, I don't know, in Dubai or something. And the same is like with Slovakia, like somebody, like some old schoolmate could be like in Bratislava or in Brisbane, like in Australia, or in Slovakia, and I don't know, just like you can keep in touch with him or her, just writing messages, and sometimes you even don't know where they are. So this is like one small example that Balaji talks about, like how technology, like social media, help us to be more mobile. And then like he talks about like mobile made us more mobile. So that's another like way how you can keep in touch with your friends. You can walk and just like have internet on you all the time. It's like you can have your office in with you all the time. And so there are many examples like this. So for example, you can call some kind of you can call Uber, like in Nairobi or in Slovakia. It's kind of quick to get Uber, and you don't need to, let's say, own your car if you're just like moving around city, and you don't need to, I don't know, you don't need car for some business purposes. So that's also like what made us more mobile, because let's say, and you don't need to own this type of property. You can have just Uber. You could technically just like use services like Airbnb or something, and you don't.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. If you enjoyed listening to Mtambo's Desk podcast, please subscribe, give this episode a thumbs up, and be sure to come back next week for another episode. Until then, this is Duke Mtambo, and don't forget to do good always.